The moment I heard about the Umbrella Academy, I was so excited to watch it. I love superhero TV shows. Not all superhero TV shows, but when I first watched season 1, I binged it in 2 days. I loved it so much. The action is fun. The characters are fun. Pacing, not always perfect, but like close enough. Thumbs up for the Umbrella Academy. I got so invested in these characters. I loved the way that it looked. I loved the way that it sounded. The soundtrack is also very fun to listen to. It's like kind of the perfect show. But not really the perfect show. I also really appreciated that it goes into the superhero TV show genre with a slightly different lens than all the other ones. Because there are lots of shows out there that are about teen heroes. And there are lots of shows out there about adult heroes. But this one is kind of interesting that it almost blends these two. That it's about adult heroes and how they were affected by being teen heroes. And I really liked that coming together and that new perspective on what would happen to these teen heroes as they grew up and how they were affected by their abusive and neglectful upbringing. So what is season 1 of Umbrella Academy all about? Well, it's about a lot of things. It's about dealing with abuse. It's about learning how to support your siblings. It's about the value of family. It's about overcoming childhood trauma. And here are some great videos about all of those things. Because, yeah, Umbrella Academy definitely explores that. But once you really stop and think, the takeaway message of the show isn't really that. It's like this show is like really good pizza. When you're eating it, it is fantastic. But then, no matter how good the pizza was originally, once it's been sitting out for a few weeks, it's just... And I ain't never gonna stop. Not that I think that this TV show is trash, but this show's overall message, when you actually look at it, is fatalism. This show's big theme is once you are on a road to destruction, no matter how hard you fight against it, you will end in destruction. And that's not what I want out of my fun TV show with pop music about families, but it is the show that we got anyway. It's a very defeatist form of fatalism, where it's not just everything is predetermined and there's only one way this is gonna go, it's all fated. It's also, and the fated way it's gonna go is terrible. This is best seen in the Temps Commission, which is the time police. Their job is to make sure the timeline stays the way it's supposed to be. And what way is it supposed to be? Every single example they give us is a disaster. They're just making sure all the disasters in history happen. So, I guess that's the way history is supposed to be, right? Go defeatist fatalism. But, you know, those are the bad guys, right? The Temps Commission. So maybe like this is the example of this is the bad point of view and the good point of view is that we can have hope and change the future. So let's look at our fun main characters. We've got Luther, Diego, Allison, Klaus, Five, Ben, Vanya, Grace and Pogo, Hazel, and Cha-Cha. So what kind of successes do they get? Do they ever get to overcome their terrible childhood, to break out of that conditioning and programming and really find a way to overcome their fate and have a little win? Well, there are 10 episodes. Let's see how they do. In episode 4, Vanya gets a date. In episode 6, Klaus decides to sober up and he gets Diego to help him. They get a nice little sibling bonding moment as well. In episode 6, Vanya actually gets to discover the truth about her powers and she doesn't immediately go on a killing rampage. In episode 6, Luther and Allison start a little romantic subplot, which, depending on your perspective, is either them totally fulfilling their neglectful childhood programming or maybe breaking out of it. But anyway, the show presents it as a loving win, so I'm gonna put it on this list of successes of overcoming childhood trauma. And Hazel and Cha-Cha decide to move on from their life in the Temps Commission. In episode 6, Grace totally breaks her programming and decides to tell Diego a secret. In episode 7, Klaus finally gets to contact their father, which is something he's been trying to do for a while. Allison totally gets to help save the day by choosing not to kill Vanya, but instead is able to take her down peacefully. Also in episode 10, Klaus gets to manifest Ben and help save the day a little bit, and in episode 10, Hazel gets to have his own love plot and run away with Agnes, which was really fun to see. Wait a minute, let's look at these. Vanya got the date with a psycho murderer who was manipulating her, so I think we can safely say that wasn't a win. You will notice there are a lot of awesome wins here in episode 6! Go episode 6! Oh wait, that's the one that was retconned. Yeah, episode 6 kind of never happened. Kind of did, but kind of didn't. So, yeah, all of those gone. By manifesting the ghost of Ben, isn't he just kind of fulfilling what his father always wanted for him? Like, yeah, it's a great win for him because he's doing it because he was able to be sober and support his brother, but also he's only kind of doing it because that's what his father's pep talk when he contacted his dad was trying to get him to do. There's a huge suspenseful moment there where you're like, oh no, is Allison gonna kill Vanya? But what? But they have to save the world, but then they can't kill their sister. And she does it. She's able to incapacitate Vanya without killing her. Unfortunately, the apocalypse still happens. The moon still explodes. It's like, okay, you're saying that they did everything kind of right. You know, they're trying their best. She saved her sister. And the apocalypse still happens. It's like the epitome of fatalism is the superheroes. These superheroes don't save the day, which is nice because it's kind of like a trope subversion. But also it's like, well, I guess this movie isn't about the power of family saving the day. I guess it's about no matter how awesome you are, disaster is inevitable. Which is so sad that in the end we have so few actual successes. And the most convoluted defeatist fatalism part of this whole show is the death of Sir Reginald Hargreaves, right? So it's implied Sir Reginald Hargreaves knew that the apocalypse was coming, and he also knew that he had to assemble his umbrella academs. He had to get them all together so they could stop the end of the world. How are they going to get together? At his funeral! So Reginald killed himself, which successfully reunites the team. However, them all coming together is what started Vanya down her evil path because she felt really excluded even when they were all together. Vanya going down her evil path made the apocalypse happen, which made Sir Reginald want to kill himself. Wait a minute. That's just a cycle. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like, well, I guess that's what was always going to happen. Maybe that's just the way that it was meant to be. So it's like these characters just don't have enough free will. You know, they're like making choices, but the choices never actually affect the outcome. Like, the outcome might change a little bit, but the outcome is always still disaster, which is pretty sad. Let's just imagine if these people had a little less messed up childhood, how much things could have gone better. There are so many little moments where if the family was just a little closer and a little less traumatized by their childhood of loneliness and pain, you know, I guess the show would have been pretty boring because there wouldn't have been much conflict, but also it's like, what are we supposed to take away from this show? That if you had an abusive childhood, the only way that your story is going to end is in an unavoidable apocalypse? It's just not as cool as I originally thought the Umbrella Academy was. Hopefully season 2 fixes it. But that being said, this show is still really good pizza. Like, it's so fun to watch. It's fun to talk about. And let's keep watching it and keep talking about it, but also let's talk a little bit about how its message is so dark and hopeless.